Good morning, everyone. It's 11 minutes past 7 o'clock, and it is time for a visit from Ron, the car guy from Westside Auto Pros. And this morning's topic is one of the most popular topics we have talked about on this program in a long, long time. So we are going to be revisiting it because we talked briefly about it last week.
Correct. Kind of a continuation from last week's talk, and you had mentioned, and it was kind of ironic because you had mentioned it on the air. And then I got 2 or 3 emails this last week, with people wanting a little more information about it.
About?
E15.
Right.
Yep, and it's an alternative fuel. It hit the market, here in the metro area about 1.5 years ago is when they rolled it out. And it's basically a blend of gasoline and ethanol. And we've had that for years. We've had the ethanol blend, which is 10%. It's been around since sometime in the 80s. I remember I was a young car guy when that first came out and wreaked a little bit of havoc for a few years because cars weren't designed for it. But now I'm a big believer in it. I mean, when we talk to people about fuel and stuff, I tell them to buy, if your car is rated for 87 octane fuel, buy the cheapest stuff out there, which is going to be your ethanol blend. So when we talk about E15, if there's something people that work for the Iowa corn growers don't like that I say, don't bombard me with emails, because I am a believer in the alcohol-based fuel. But what we get a lot is, can I use it in my car, the E15?
So what's the biggest difference from what we're used to now E15?
It has more alcohol, and as you can see, I took this snapshot this last weekend at a local gas station. And gas is getting confusing, but you can see on there the 87 button is an ethanol blend. That's what we're totally used to buying, or what I recommend people buy.
So that's the regular 10% ethanol blend, the 87.
Exactly, okay. Exactly. And it happened to be $2.14 a gallon on Saturday. You can see to the left of it's the E15. And like you, Lou, I'm partially colorblind, but that's blue in my world. But the E15 drops down to $2.04 a gallon. And then we've got the E85, which is 85% alcohol. Technically it's 70, but we'll call it 85. And it's $1.59. And so those 3 fuels are unique in that the 87 octane 10% ethanol that we've had for years, we can use that in pretty much anything. The E15, if you read on the pump, it says it's recommended for vehicles 2001 and newer. So if you have a vehicle that's 2000, was built in 2000 or prior, it's a definite no. Don't put it in there.
Not the E15.
Not the E15. And this show's primarily about the E15. To touch on the E85, don't put that in any vehicle unless it's flex fuel. And if you have a flex fuel vehicle, you'll know it. It says it somewhere on the vehicle.
It has a big old stamp.
Correct. If you do put it in a non-flex fuel vehicle, you will get about 4.5 blocks from the gas station, because that's where our tow trucks usually pick people up.
4.5 blocks.
Correct. So, but the E15, if your car is 2001 and newer, it says on the pump, and the EPA says that you can use E15 in your car. Now, where it gets a little sketchy is the manufacturers of the vehicle don't agree with that. So
you need to explain that.
Because they probably weren't prepared for it back in 2000.
Well, they didn't know it was coming out.
Right.
Yeah, when they engineered and designed those cars in 2001, 2002, 2005, E15 didn't exist.
Right.
And so the EPA and the oil companies are focused on the emissions aspect of it. Okay. And they're like, okay, this is approved for cars in 2001 and newer. The manufacturers are like, whoa, time out. We're not too sure about this. And so vehicles produced usually in the 2012 to 2013 model year and newer, they knew this was coming.
Right.
And so you're not going to have a problem. It'll work. And certainly in a flex fuel vehicle, it would work. But you can verify it by checking the owner's manual. If you've got like a 2012 or newer vehicle, it's going to talk about E15 in there because they knew it was coming.
They already have the verbiage in there.
Exactly. So the concern that we have is with the components in the fuel system. I'm going to say the pre-2013 cars.
Now, what type of components are we talking about here?
We're talking about the fuel pumps. The fuel injectors, there's a lot of plastic pieces, nylon pieces. what's the effect of being exposed to 15% alcohol going to do to these items as opposed to 10? We know 10% isn't going to hurt it.
Right.
We don't know if 15 will. And then there's other components that could eventually lead to engine damage. And so some of the manufacturers, there's 8 of them out there that have come out and stated the warranty's void if you put E15 in their vehicle. That's not recommended for it. And AAA is also saying, hey, if the manufacturer doesn't specify, don't run E15 in the vehicle because we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I was going to say, have they been able to prove the potential damage that could occur?
With that said, this stuff's been out in the metro area, like I said, for about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen anything in my shop that can say, oh, you put E15 in this car and now we have this damage.
You haven't seen anything?
I haven't seen anything.
Would you be able to link that?
Well, maybe. And that's the $1 million question, because you look at, let's say you've got a 2002 vehicle.
Right.
I mean, that car's 14 years old. And you start using E15 for 3 months and your fuel pump goes out. Did the fuel pump fail because you were using E15? Or did it fail because it was a 14-year-old fuel pump?
Because it's 14 years old, yeah.
I mean, so it's really hard to say. The concern, and this is one of the reasons AAA said the potential damage could result in costly repairs for unsuspecting consumers. It's especially tough for motorists, given that only 40% of Americans have enough in savings to afford a major auto repair. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you can avoid a major auto repair, by all means do it. My recommendation is, if you've got a 2012 or newer, probably avoid it. As we saw on the screen there, the savings isn't that great anyway. It was.
But still a dime. It was a dime a gallon.
It's a dime a gallon. You're going to put 20 gallons in your car. That's $2. How often, do you fill up? Let's say you fill up once a week. I mean, now we're talking, $104 a year in savings versus a potential of a $600 fuel injector, $1,000 fuel pump.
Mm-hmm. So if it's 2012 or newer, do use it or don't use it?
Don't use it would be my recommendation.
Okay.
It boils down to a personal choice. I mean, the ethanol industry is big. It helps support the economy in Iowa. Mm-hmm. If you look at the companies that are pumping out E15, even E85, I mean, they're phenomenal Iowa companies. I mean, Hy-Vee's Iowa-based. You go to their stores, and they've got the E85. I mean, they're doing really a good job with alternative energy. I mean, go to any of their new stores and look at all the charging stations they got in for the electric cars. I mean, they're on it. Come and Go's another good one. They've got a lot of the alcohol-based fuels and stuff, but they're Iowa-based companies, so they're really embracing this. And I mean, if you want to do your part to help the ethanol industry, definitely the 10% alcohol. I mean, your car is built for that.
And you have to remember, it's getting colder now, too, and having an alcohol in your fuel system will help it in the colder weather, too.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, the moisture is less likely to build up in the system and stuff like that. So it boils down to personal preference. But unless you have a flex fuel vehicle or something newer than a 2012, I would probably avoid it.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, if people still have more questions, Ron, where should they go?
They can go to our website, westsideautopros.com. You can contact me through there. You can call me on the telephone or askronthecarguy.com. If you wanted to rewatch or show this segment to somebody, it'll be on askronthecarguy.com as well as on CW Iowa Live.
There you go. Perfect. All right. Great answers and some great